Corpse Party. Imagine you and your homies decided to perform a sacred ritual that's supposed to make your friendships everlasting for the rest of your lives, only to be isekai'd into a terrifying haunted elementary school full of violent ghost children who will literally turn you into a delicious meat smoothie in Minecraft. And this cursed elementary school carries an extremely dark history that I can't explain in detail this early in the video, because otherwise YouTube will have a massive heart attack. That's the premise of Corpse Party Tortured Souls, a 2013 4-episode horror anime OVA based on the video game Corpse Party. And while the story and lore around the game was actually intriguing and entertaining to me as a horror fan, the same cannot be said about the anime, which might as well have just pulverized the original story of the game into a mess even more horrific than some of the mangled corpses featured in the show. This anime took a story with many branching paths, multiple endings, important plot relevant lore, hella characters, and the different relationships between them, and tried to shove it all into a mere 4-episode runtime. That's like taking an entire house and trying to flush it down a toilet. Obviously, the toilet's gonna shatter into a million pieces. Hello everybody, my name is Leo Hashi, and today I watched Corpse Party Tortured Souls so you don't have to. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to leave a like and subscribe if you'd like to see me slowly but surely lose my mind. And as always, a huge shout out to my channel members. I really appreciate your support, and if anyone else is interested, feel free to check out my memberships. It helps out a lot. So before I talk about the anime, I wanted to first talk about the game franchise a bit. Corpse Party is a survival horror game series that features a lot of morbidly intriguing lore, the most unnecessary fan service in existence, gore, I don't know if I have to censor that word, and oh, tons of corpses. I mean, it's in the name. It's not as much of a party as the name suggests. Like, you're not out here playing Flip Cup or doing anything actually fun. Well, I don't think Flip Cup is that fun, but you know what I mean. But most of the time, you're gonna be running away from ghost children who literally want to remove parts of your face, or learning about some of the most horrific crimes known to man, or trying to save the main characters from dying in the worst ways imaginable, while also being somewhat distracted by the very necessary fan service that added so much to the horrific experience of it all. I mean, the real horror might just be how goddamn common it is for anime to minors. But anyway, the Corpse Party game was extremely popular on YouTube around a decade ago, and I remember watching PewDiePie play through it and actually really liking it back then. I thought the story and horror elements were interesting, amongst other things a 14-year-old teenage boy might find interesting about a game like this. I mean, I didn't fully understand everything that was happening considering I was young and dumb back then, but I remember this game quite fondly because despite its flaws, I thought the game's storyline was very entertaining and kept me wanting to know more. The same cannot be said about the anime, unfortunately. In fact, I thought the anime kind of sucked ass. It really tried to tell this entire game's story in just 4 episodes and kind of ended up ruining everything good about it. The characters are all reduced to being surface level as hell, to the point where you could even just call them 0.5 dimensional. The story becomes awfully paced, like we're watching an any % speedrun of the Corpse Party game. The lore becomes so convoluted that I'm still a little confused about it as I record this video. And we can't forget the very necessary fan service that ends up eating into the runtime of the show. And for a 4-episode series, runtime is probably the one important resource you shouldn't be wasting. Before I jump into recapping the anime for you guys, I want to establish this first. This video is mostly going to be about the anime only, which means I won't be diving deep into much story or lore stuff that ended up being cut out of the anime that was in the original game. So you guys get to experience the same confusion that I got to experience while watching this absolute mess of a show. Now let's dive into the wonderfully horrific world of Corpse Party Tortured Souls, shall we? First, let me introduce you to the characters. Now, they all do have names, but I'm gonna give some of them really simple nicknames because once you are actually able to remember their name, they're already dead anyways, so it really doesn't matter. Yeah, they are characters with names and personalities and story in the game, but the show is so goddamn short that 95% of them might as well just be nameless Oblivion NPCs. Satoshi is the main character. He's a generic high school boy, and the only notable character trait I can say about him is that he's a fucking dumbass. He's such a dumbass. Yuka is Satoshi's younger sister, whose main character trait in this anime is that she really has to go to the bathroom. Half of her storyline in this anime is basically her trying to hold back her pee while horrible ghosts and insane high schoolers attempt to do unspeakable violence to her. In Minecraft, of course. Naomi is a classmate of Satoshi's and the token fan service character. She also seems to have a crush on Satoshi, but who even cares? Like who gives a shit? Seiko is Naomi's BFF, who also constantly crosses the line of friendship, as she loves to stick her face right into Naomi's fan service areas, if you catch my drift. The class pres named Ayumi, but I'm just gonna call her the class pres, is the class president and a big believer in the occult and supernatural. She's also hinted towards having feelings for Satoshi, but again, literally who cares? Who cares? I'm trying to watch some disgusting ass, nasty ass gore caused by horrifying ghost children, and you're giving me some bullshit ass romance squabble in the show? Like, miss me with that bullshit. Blonde guy who is named Kishinuma, but I'm just gonna call him blonde guy because his character is basically just reduced to an NPC with blonde hair in this anime, is a classmate and friend of everyone's. He seems to have feelings for the class president, but like, can we like stop with a romance in this show, please? Pink girl who is named Mayu, but again, whatever, I'll call her Pink Girl because she wears a distinct pink hair thingy, is a classmate who is supposed to be moving away and transferring to a different school before the horrific events of Corpse Party takes place. Glasses, who is named Sakutaro, but whatever, I'm gonna call him Glasses, is a seemingly chill guy who is low-key kind of insane, and by the end, he's just a walking red flag. He has a special connection with Pink Girl, as she is apparently his savior or some shit. I don't know, man. He seems really stable. Oh, and there's the teacher, Miss Yui, who is literally the most unimportant character in anything ever, so whatever, just know that she exists. Episode 1 begins with Naomi waking up in a very spooky classroom, but she doesn't know this classroom. How does she end up here? We then see a flashback to our group of surface level characters telling spooky stories around a candle. The class pres sets the scene. The rumor is that it happened after school on a rainy day. One of the teachers fell down the stairs and died. The headmaster at the time treated the school like it was his child, but disaster kept happening one after another. After several unaliving incidents, they tore the school down. The headmaster went insane, and on the day the school closed down, he ended his own existence as well. They say that the teacher who fell down the stairs doesn't realize that she's dead and still wanders the dark hallways of the school. This elementary school was known as the Heavenly Host Elementary School, and our high school, the Kisaragi Academy, is built on top of the ruins of that cursed school. I hope my voice acting is good enough for you, by the way. I'm putting my heart and soul into this performance, if you can't tell. Anyways, during this story, Satoshi, the main character, begins to freak out, and everyone else begins to clown on his pussy ass because they want to hear more of the story. The class president continues. They say that the spirit of this teacher only appears after a blackout. After 2 knocks at the door, it opens very slowly, and a white face asks, "You're still in here?" Suddenly, everyone hears 2 knocks on the door. The candle goes out, and everyone begins freaking out as the door opens, and a girl says, "You're still in here?" As everyone screams and possibly shits their pants canonically, the lights turn on, and their teacher, Miss Yui, begins to laugh. It's just a prank, guys. It's just a prank. But what really made me scream in terror was the really necessary fan service moment that we had here, where as the classroom light turns on, somehow in the midst of the panic, Satoshi had managed to grab Naomi's chest accidentally. Accidentally! Like, y'all ever experienced what might be a poltergeist and freak out and then accidentally grab a girl's chest? God, I fucking hate when that happens, man. Oh, God. And of course, Naomi is just like, "Satoshi, what are you doing?" angrily, and Satoshi's like, "Oh, I didn't mean to." Oh, I'm just terrified at this point, you know? We just can never escape pointless fan service ever. Look, I know, guys, take a shot every time Leo complains about fan service. Actually, don't. I think you'll genuinely end up in a hospital. But here's the thing, okay? I don't think all fan service is inherently a bad thing. I play gacha games, dude. Fan service exists. It's a thing, and it works from a marketing standpoint, yada, yada, yada. Characters are designed to be attractive because that's what makes the money. But the issue is that a lot of times, these characters tend to be high schoolers who are usually, you know, minors. And for some reason, a lot of the shows I end up talking about on my channel tend to have this unfortunate trope of sexualizing minors for some reason, and I'm gonna call it out for being weird or pointless as hell whenever I see it, because it's just not okay. And especially because Corpse Party is supposed to be a horror game, right? Like, imagine watching Hereditary or The Conjuring or whatever else horror movie, and there's a scary tense moment, the sounds are heightening, the violins are screeching, your heart is pounding, and suddenly you just get a low angle shot showing off a girl's underwear in the midst of it. It's just so fucking stupid to me to have fan service in a horror show. That's just my opinion, though. Anyways, Yuka, Satoshi's younger sister, spawns into the room to deliver an umbrella to Satoshi. While this happens, Seiko, Naomi's BFF, teases her about liking Satoshi, even saying something like, "Look, it's your rival for your love," when talking about Satoshi's biological younger sister. Girl, Let's all just take a moment to calm down, please. Before they leave, class press tells everyone that they should do a ritual called the Happy Sachiko. It's a charm that makes sure everyone stays friends forever, like My Little Pony, I guess. The reason why they want to do this ritual is because Pink Girl is moving away very soon. They all have a cliche friendship moment before jumping into the ritual. Now, this is how the ritual works. They take a paper cutout shaped like a person. This paper is the Sachiko doll. Everyone stands around a Sachiko doll and repeats, "Please, Sachiko," inside their mind 9 times, okay? The words can be right or wrong, but they have to make sure to get the count right. 9 times. Then everyone holds out their hand, grabs a part of the Sachiko doll, and rips the doll into pieces, and the ritual is complete. And while they do this ritual, we just sit and stare as we just have a few moments of complete silence where no one just says anything. As everyone rips the doll apart, thunder rings out. It's said that as long as they all carry a piece of this doll, they'll stay friends forever, or some shit, whatever. I just love how the wholesome "let's be friends forever" ritual consists of literally tearing apart, some may say mutilating, a girl-shaped paper into bits and pieces. I don't know about you, but if one of my homies brought that shit up to me, there's no way in hell I'm gonna trust this, okay? As everyone gets ready to leave, the building begins to shake. The room is in ruins. A giant hole opens up beneath everyone, and they all fall in. And as they all fall into this random hole in the ground to what could potentially be their deaths, Seiko is, of course, shoving her entire face right into Naomi's chest, because why? Is it a survival tactic? Is that gonna cushion the fall? Whatever. Anyway, now we're back to the present. Naomi gets up and sees Seiko on the floor near her. She wakes her up, and the two try to figure out what's going on or where they are. As they talk, Naomi hears a little girl laughing in the distance, but Seiko says she heard nothing. Naomi also seems to have sprained her ankle as she can't walk normally. Seiko says the chairs and desks in the classroom were very small, as if it was an elementary school. What? And then a small girl in red stares behind them as they walk. As the two explore, Naomi is like, "We're alone," and Seiko is like, "That means I get you all to myself," as she shoves her face into Naomi's chest again. This just keeps happening. At this point, I'm more scared of how obsessed Seiko seems to be with her best friend's body than anything else, really. Seiko then asks for butt cream, which I'm assuming is for like a rash on your ass cheeks or something. I don't know. Naomi apparently has her butt cream on deck with her everywhere she goes, as she takes the tube out of her pocket and gives it to Seiko, who goes into the bathroom to apply this life-saving butt cream. Naomi looks around to find a clock. As she stares into the reflection, she sees a little girl behind her and turns around only to see Seiko instead, all done with her butt cream application. The two find the entrance to the school as we learn that Seiko takes care of her elementary schooler brother on her own because her dad comes home from work very late. They try to open the entrance doors, but they don't budge. Naomi hears more laughter in the distance and freaks out as Seiko says they should find a place to rest. In the nurse's office, Seiko bandages Naomi's leg as Seiko asks if they'll be together forever from now on, in of course a very platonic friendship only sort of way. Yep. Seiko then gets up and says she might have lost her piece of charm in the bathroom and goes out to look for it alone as she tells Naomi to rest. Naomi then hears a clock ring in the distance as she realizes that she can't move or speak. She hears frantic writing as she notices a pencil writing in a notebook on its own. Blood splatters begin to fill the room and Naomi freaks out, asking for Seiko to come save her. A dark aura surrounds Naomi and a pair of eyes saying "Sachan" approaches her. And of course, this tortured soul, this horrific ghost, had to raise up Naomi's skirt just enough so the viewer can get a peep of her undergarments. Like, this was so fucking goofy. I just burst out laughing while watching it. Oh, watch out. This scary ghost might destroy your entire existence. But not before giving the homies a peep of them undergarments. You know what I'm saying? This evil spirit, I guess, had different priorities than the average evil spirit. Anyways, the spirit begins to try to enter Naomi's body or something. I don't know. Meanwhile, Seiko hears a thud in the distance and sees a human body half destroyed in Minecraft with its organs hanging out in Minecraft. Seiko screams Naomi's name and Naomi is able to escape the spirit's grasp. Naomi tries to run, but she's trapped in the room by a bunch of hair. She rips the hair apart as the spirit asks, "Where are you going, Sachan?" Naomi opens the door and the spirit fades away. In the hallway, she finds a corpse sitting on a chair in Minecraft, then turns to see a young girl in red. Her mouth begins to bleed profusely until Seiko calls Naomi's name and the young girl disappears. Naomi crashes out at Seiko saying, "You said you'd be back quick! Always together, my ass!" Seiko then runs away on her own, which doesn't really seem to be the smartest decision to make in a situation like this, but regardless, Seiko blames herself for this and says she has to apologize, but then hears a voice calling out to her. Naomi later regrets what she said and she wants to apologize. As she wanders the halls, she finds more wonderful displays of corpses and shit as she finds her handy tube of butt cream on the ground. She heads into the bathroom and begins to apologize, but then hears the sound of a rope from behind the stall. She opens up the stall to find Seiko hung by her neck, choking to death. Naomi desperately tries to save her, but it's too late. Seiko is dead. Naomi screams, asking why Seiko would do this to herself when they promised to go home together. As Naomi cries, the young girl in red watches her, smiles, and disappears. So I don't know if you remember, but earlier I dropped a line about Seiko's backstory and family life, mostly because I wanted to highlight how inconsequential most of these character moments are in this show. We barely get to know them as a character before they get deleted from the existence of the show. Despawned violently, whatever. I'm sure in the games, a lot of these characters definitely have their own personalities and backstories and whatnot, you know, reasons for us to care. But in the anime, legitimately none of these things matter or do anything. Episode 2 begins by jumping right into the action as we see the ghosts of vengeful children attack and obliterate random students in various colorful and tasteful ways, as we hear a narration. All who have come into contact with the curse of this school will slowly lose their sanity and descend into madness, hurting others without warning. In the final stages of this curse, their bodies blacken and their souls are absorbed by the school. This phenomenon is called corruption, which is a cool concept and all, but spoiler alert, this shit barely comes up in the anime after this, so thanks for that. Naomi is on the ground as a random girl with glasses tells Naomi that Seiko had gone through corruption, and to protect her mind, Seiko had chosen to delete herself. Meanwhile, Glasses tries to bash the windows open, but to no avail. The random girl with glasses approaches him and tells him they're unable to go back to the real world anymore, and all he can do is wait quietly just like his other friends. Hearing this, Glasses demands to know, where is Pink Girl? Because just to remind you, the two have some sort of special connection of some kind, but the random girl with glasses just does a little trolling and then fades away. Satoshi reads a newspaper and we learn about an incident called the Heavenly Post. It's a crime that took place at his school where for 1 month there were reports of serial child disappearances, and it ended in the worst way imaginable. One night, local law enforcement found the corpses of the missing children, along with a faculty member holding bloody scissors and staring into the distance. In Minecraft, of course. Satoshi continues to monologue, but Yuka, his sister, cuts him off desperately, saying she needs to use the bathroom. And thus, the holding the piss arc of Corpse Party begins now. All of the bathrooms look busted as they look around. They also find a lot of different corpses and people who were despawned from the world in various indescribable ways. The two eventually spot Glasses, who is taking pictures of a random person's guts splatter all over the wall and stuff, which is totally normal. But when he notices Satoshi and Yuka, he of course immediately is like, oh wow, what are you guys doing here? Me? Oh, you know, just really trying to take in how horrible all of this is, you know, like definitely not taking glamour shots of mutilated corpses or anything. Glasses mentions that there are students from other schools also trapped here, but they were so disturbed that they wouldn't answer any questions. Glasses says, thankfully you guys seem sane still. Oh, be careful by the way, ghosts appear here and they are attacking other people, as the two split to look for their friends. Meanwhile, the class press has a mental breakdown as she screams, I can't stay here! The blonde guy tries to calm her down, but then hears a laugh and sees a ghost kid who begins to approach them. Blonde kid recognizes the kid from a newspaper, and the class press screams to not look into the ghost's eyes. The blonde guy's like, I got it, I won't look into his eyes, then immediately turns to face the ghost kid and looks directly into his eyes. The kid is like, who wants to die first? And then goes into unalive the class press, but the blonde guy covers for her and the ghost kid fades away. The random girl in glasses approaches them, revealing that she had died a long time ago and came to this place to look for someone she knows. The class press recognizes this random girl in glasses, asking her, are you Naho? It turns out that this random glasses girl named Naho is actually a high schooler famous for her research of ghosts, and she has a renowned blog on the spiritual and metaphysical. So what? She's kind of an influencer or something? Like BuzzFeed Unsolved type shit? The class press reveals that she's a big fan of her blogs and that she got the happy Sachiko charm from her blog too. But apparently her blog entries had stopped all of a sudden. I mean, I don't know about you, but if I was following someone online and then they posted this weird ass ritual on their website and then never posted again, I think the last thing I'd want to try is that very last ritual that she posted, but whatever, man. Blonde guy asks if there's a way to go back to the real world, and glasses girl reveals that she believes this school is sustained by the spirits of the 4 children who were unalive there years ago. She believes that if these children's spirits are appeased, the plane could be destroyed and released release everyone. And the most important thing in appeasing the spirits is the repentance of the criminal. The murderer is also apparently still in this school. Glasses Girl also reveals that although 9 spirits, meaning all of their friends, had just entered the school, it's impossible to meet them because this plane has numerous overlapping dimensions, meaning even if you are in the same exact spot, you can't meet unless you inhabit the same dimension. Glasses Girl then fades away saying, "Maybe you guys can figure it out," and leaves the doll with the name Yoshikazu written on it. In another dimension, Miss Yui reads a newspaper article about the incident. We learn that the children's cause of death was blood loss and asphyxiation. The murder weapon, large scissors, were used by the man arrested at the scene to take out the children's tongues in Minecraft. One child's head was severely destroyed with half of it being gone in Minecraft. Dear God, I can't. YouTube, this is an anime, okay? It's not real, okay? We're chilling, right? Miss Yui sees a classroom fully lit and opens the door, recognizing Pink Girl's voice. She opens the door to see Pink Girl laughing and having fun with 2 ghost children, one completely missing half their face and the other missing one of her eyes. Miss Yui tells Pink Girl to get away from them, but Pink Girl says, "It's okay, they're good children, I'll stay here with them." Miss Yui continues to beg and approaches Pink Girl, but the ghosts use the force against her, I guess, and blasts her away. Miss Yui begs the ghost kids to give Pink Girl back because she's a precious student of hers, but this triggers the ghost children, who instead decide to pick Pink Girl up by the legs. And I swear to God, these ghost kids are doing this on purpose, bro. As they grab Pink Girl, they make sure to hold her up in the air upside down so that they could show off her undergarments to the entire spirit realm, because we really needed this very blatant fan service shot. And of course, right after this fan service, they drag Pink Girl out of the room and extremely violently unalive her entire existence. Like, they drag her across the floor and shit, dude, and we hear screaming. Anyway, Miss Yui stares in horror as she sees what remains of Pink Girl splattered on the wall and the floor. Miss Yui then cries as a figure approaches her and knocks her out. Glasses wonders where Pink Girl is and then has a weird-ass monologue about how she is his salvation and begs her not to leave him alone. He then says, "I need to revel in others' misfortunes," and starts to go through his phone gallery, which contains a concerning amount of images of random corpses. He is absolutely fascinated by these pictures, saying they look more like wax figures. Then he pulls out his favorite image, which is literally just a picture of spilled guts everywhere in Minecraft, and says, "This is the best one." This is his magnum opus. That is his Mona Lisa. Yeah, he seems like he's doing totally fine, and he's saying, "Guys, what do you mean?" Anyways, he gets a phone call and snaps out of it. Over the phone, he hears Pink Girl's voice saying, "Don't look, don't look, don't look at my insides." Glasses then realizes that his magnum opus is actually a picture of the remains of the girl who was supposed to be his salvation, as he recognizes the pink hair thingy that she was always wearing within the picture. He screams as the screen then fades to black. Satoshi and his sister bump into the girl in red. They ask her if she's lost, and the girl in red directs them to follow her. This girl is totally not suspicious or anything. Totally normal child that's trapped in here, unfortunately, by herself. And Satoshi and Yuka believe that she's trapped here too, just like them, so they follow her. I mean, are they absolutely fucking insane? Or am I insane for thinking that they're insane for just being okay with following this girl who is clearly some kind of evil spirit in this terrifying world where they just see corpses decorating the entire place? Are they serious? Anyways, the girl leads them outside where they find even more corpses. Yuka says that she can't hold the pee in anymore as the drama in the pee holding arc becomes heightened. Satoshi then says, "Can you do it outside?" And she's like, "Okay, I guess." Yuka then asks the girl in red, the normal girl, not suspicious at all, to come with her. Absolutely insane. Satoshi then, instead of sticking around and looking out for his younger sister, who could literally be snatched by an evil ghost and unalived on the spot, just tells her, "Make sure to scream if something happens," and then walks away from her and goes inside of the building without her. Huh? Dog, what? Oh, I don't get it. Why the fuck are you letting your younger sister go off on her own with a very suspicious random ass girl they bumped into out of nowhere? Are you a dumbass? Do you have no survival instinct? And predictably, Yuka is unable to complete her mission of taking a piss because as she climbs over the fence, she sees a ghost child. What a surprise. She also realizes that the girl in red had disappeared, which legitimately shouldn't be a surprise to anyone, but whatever, man. The ghost kid screams, "Give it back!" And Yuka screams, alerting Satoshi. However, Satoshi Satoshi is unable to open the doors to help Yuka. The girl in red then taps his back and smiles menacingly as Yuka runs into a separate building and closes the door while screaming for Satoshi. Like, I'm sorry, is Satoshi an idiot? Oh, hey, let me just place my full trust in this random ass kid who spawned out of nowhere, and then trust this random ass kid who spawned out of nowhere to accompany my literal biological sister that I care about very much to go pee in a forest surrounded by a ton of corpses while I just go wander off into another building. At least stay outside and wait for your sister to finish up, dude. Did the many violently destroyed corpses around the school not give you any sort of warning? Huh? Anyway. Meanwhile, the class pres and blonde guy discuss. Yoshikazu, the name on the doll they found, is also the name of the teacher who had violently unalived the kids. They hypothesize that they're supposed to use the doll to elicit the criminal's repentance. The doll repeatedly speaks, "I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry," as the blonde guy freaks out and bumps into a wall, which breaks the wall down, and he spots a small pouch on the ground. The doll, or teacher's spirit, or whatever the hell this thing is, says, "The children died so horribly. I was not in my right mind. I didn't want it to end like that. I was also scared." The pouch the blonde guy picked up has a name on it, Ryo Yoshizawa, which was one of the dead children's names. It was also the kid who attacked them earlier. As they realize this, the ghost kid approaches them again. He keeps telling them to give it back. The kid attacks them as he knocks the blonde guy out and begins to choke out the class pres, but she grabs the pouch with his name on it and shows it to the kid, who loses his fury and calms down. He returns to a normal color as he says, "My tongue!" and begins to fade away. It seems like the spirit was able to be appeased as the pouch had contained a tongue that the child had taken away from him years ago. The two then set out to do this for the rest of the ghost children in order to escape this horrible school. We then jump cut immediately to right after the two managed to appease two more of the ghost children off screen, like it was just checking off the grocery shopping list on another Tuesday. It was such a sudden and jarring progression in the story that I had to rewatch it to make sure I wasn't going insane and they didn't just skip a whole bunch of stuff like it was nothing, but whatever, man. They say that the last ghost child is a girl named Sachiko Shinozaki. According to the newspapers, she was apparently discovered before she died, meaning she can't be appeased in the same way. But that doesn't make sense, right? Blonde guy says, if Sachiko was found alive, then she should be an old lady by now, right? Then the class pres says, I feel like there's something very important missing. Meanwhile, Yuka, Satoshi's sister, who is still freaking out and still holding in her pee like a true titan of the bladder, is looking around frantically for Satoshi. She finds Glasses taking pictures of more corpses, and by this point, it just seems like he's gone insane. He's like, oh, you're Satoshi's sister. Honestly, one could go insane here. Let's look for him together. But Yuka is obviously too scared to go with him. I don't blame her. Glasses then crashes out saying, I said, let's go look for him. You're not being a very good girl. And chases her down while holding a crowbar. Yuka hides until a random dude approaches her and asks, why are you hiding here? I'm looking for my sister too. Want to look for them together? He says his name is Yuya from Byakudan High School. Details that genuinely don't matter, but I'll tell you about this anyway. The two walk the halls until Glasses finds them, and Yuka hides behind Yuya from Byakudan High School. Glasses and Yuya from Byakudan High School then run in to fight each other, as Yuya from Byakudan High School takes out a knife and stabs Glasses right into his neck in Minecraft, unaliving him in cold blood. Yuya from Byakudan High School then turns to Yuka saying, your Oni-chan will protect you, clearly having already lost his mind a long time ago. Episode 3 then begins with Yuya from Byakudan High School telling Yuka that no one can escape and they'll all die anyway, so they should be siblings until then. He says, you wouldn't want the ghosts to murder you, right? I'll protect you and give you a merciful end. Wow, man, that's a true Oni-chan right there if you ask me. However, out of nowhere, the building begins to quake heavily. Elsewhere, the ceiling collapses onto class pres and the blonde guy. We're finally back to Naomi, who's still in the bathroom. She suddenly hears her phone ring and picks up and hears a distorted voice asking for help. She then hears her mother's voice asking for a response, but she seems unable to hear Naomi, and the phone call ends abruptly as Naomi cries. However, the building shakes as the floor beneath her collapses. Satoshi does literally anything else but look for his younger sister, who might be at risk of being violently unalived at any moment, by doing some more research. He realizes that Sachiko Shinozaki, the sole survivor of the incident, was also the young girl in red from earlier that they thought was just a normal child. And at this point, it's like, how is this dude not panicking about the fact that his younger sister is just gone after hearing her scream her lungs out, and also realizing that the young girl in red is Sachiko, who is part of the incident? Hello? Anyways, he finds a recent videotape and a notebook laying around, which contains information about the Sachiko charm. Satoshi believes he can use this info to go home. Meanwhile, as Satoshi forgets about his sister's existence, Yuya from Byakudan High School chases Yuka around the school as Sachiko tells Yuka which way to go. Yuya from Byakudan High School continues after her, screaming, "I'll despawn your existence from Minecraft!" Yes, that's the real line he said, okay guys? But suddenly, Yuya from Byakudan High School is seemingly killed by a mysterious figure from behind. Okay, at this point in the video, I'm sure I can say that word like once in a while, right? Please, YouTube, please? Satoshi is locked into the room as a figure looms behind him. It's Naho, the random girl in glasses from earlier. She reveals that the reason why they're locked in the school is because they failed when they did the Happy Sachiko charm. Someone repeated the magical words too many times or not enough. And Satoshi is like, no way, everyone counted it 9 times for sure. Except we can easily just go back to that exact moment where they did the charm and everyone was completely silent the entire time because they were seeing it in their heads. So unless Satoshi is literally Charles Xavier, he wouldn't actually know. Naho, the random girl in glasses, says maybe someone didn't take it seriously enough or messed up the charm, thinking, "Fuck it, they'll never find out anyways." And this is definitely possible. I'm sure someone was like, dude, this is such a stupid ass charm. What would even happen if I just thought of my dinner I want to eat tonight instead of saying the actual words in my mind? And then suddenly half of your friends are dead, so good job whoever did that. Naho, the random girl in glasses, says, hold the Sachiko shard in your hand. Try to focus your thoughts on those you hold dear. She then says some bullshit about how the charm gains strength as its wielder's feelings do, or whatever, who cares? Then she slash TPs him away. Afterwards, she sinisterly says to herself, go to those you care about, although you might be too late for that, TXD. Hinting that she's evil or she's also corrupted by the school or some shit. But again, none of this matters because this show is literally 4 episodes long. Blonde guy and the class prez wake up in a classroom full of lights. It's their original classroom. Turns out they made it back to the real world, but no one else is there. They then see a weird gap in the air leading to the elementary school. This crevice turns into a ghost child who begins to tell them what happened to her. Before she was abducted, she argued with her mom, so instead of going home, she sat between the school buildings. The teacher then sat down next to her and listened to her story. He had a sickness that made him not be able to talk, but she felt that he was kind. She then begins to cry and apologizes to the two in the room, thanking them for trying to give the kids peace. Blonde guy asks why she's still here, and the kid says, I still can't move on. She says the criminal's repentance was not enough, and that doll is not right. The class prez asks the ghost kid to bring the others back alive, but the kid says that it's not possible. The curse lost its strength for an instant earlier, and that was the only chance, which is why these two are back now. All of the grief that now permeates the school had begun to look for a new host, and it has driven the other spirits insane. The kid says she will also turn into a vengeful spirit soon, attacking the living indiscriminately. The ghost kid says there is one way to save the others. If the two return to the school and help the kids find true peace, the plane will lose the joints keeping it together and crumble apart. She then offers to show the class prez what truly happened on the night of the horrible incident and knocks the class prez out cold. The class prez wakes up to realize that she is in the room with the children who were unalived back in the day. The teacher approaches and blindfolds her, saying it's her turn. She then hears the other children screaming at the top of their lungs about how it hurts as they are brutalized in ways I definitely can't describe on YouTube before I get obliterated by YouTube policies. Honestly, I think YouTube would do the same thing to my channel what the murderer did to these kids if I showed what happened here. I think I'm usually pretty good at holding myself together in really disgusting and gory moments of shows. But man, dude, some of the stuff they showed in this scene was brutal. And hearing the kids screeching at the top of their lungs also did a number on my psyche. I won't even lie about that. Good thing you only get to hear me screech about how much I hate the fan service in this show instead. The class prez begs for the teacher to stop until her blindfold is taken off. She then sees not the teacher, but Sachiko herself instead, bloodied up and holding scissors with an evil smile. The teacher is in the corner of the room, freaking out and trying not to look at the horrible things happening behind him. It turns out that the one who actually took the lives of these kids all those years ago was Sachiko, the 4th victim who was found to be alive when the bodies were found. Sachiko attacks the class prez with a scissor for an uncomfortably long amount of time before the class prez wakes up in the real world. She breaks down as she tells the blonde guy about the truth. The teacher wasn't the criminal after all. It was Sachiko. She was manipulating the teacher to help her out by abducting the kids, but it seemed like he was also horrified at what was happening. The class prez says they have to warn the others about the truth and asks the ghost kid to send them back to the school, promising her to give everyone peace. The ghost kid says they're probably not going to survive this time because the school is now in chaos. Now, this sets off what is perhaps the most pointless argument in the entire anime between two characters that we barely even know or care about at this point. Blonde guy guy says he doesn't ever want to go back there and only a crazy person actually would. The class pres yells, "You're okay if you're the only one being saved?" Blonde guy says, "There's no time to play hero. Do you want to die? Of course I care about the others, but the class pres cuts him off, who says she'll go in alone and that she regrets asking him. She's like, "I can't believe it. Don't you want to save your friends? It is dangerous, but Satoshi would do the same thing. Heartless, self-centered, delinquent." Blonde guy gets pissed about this, responding, "Like you have any idea how others feel. You only want to rescue Satoshi. Satoshi, Satoshi, Satoshi. You can love whoever you want, but..." And class pres cuts him off, saying, "I'm not only worried about Satoshi, just so you know. I'm also scared too, blonde guy." The class pres walks back into the elementary school dimension as the blonde guy punches the wall, saying, "This is so unfair. Like, did we really need that entire argument? Really? Like, I understand it's a huge moral dilemma and all, but based on what we've seen in the show so far, they've given us no reason to care about either of these random ass characters. We know absolutely nothing about them except that the class pres is the class president, who apparently likes Satoshi for some reason, and the blonde guy has blonde hair, and maybe he low-key likes the class pres, I guess, based on this argument, because he sounded a little bit jealous, you know? But like, who really cares about any of this stuff? If I wanted to watch two people whine and moan about stupid bullshit to each other, I'd just go watch The Real Housewives, okay? Because that shit is actually entertaining as hell. Anyways, Naomi wakes up wondering where she fell. And of course, because this is once again very necessary, there is a fan service shot of literally her entire bottom part just shoving itself into our faces and taking up half the screen. You know, the undershot that we really needed. I guess the creators were like, "Oh, Corpse Party is too scary. We need something to balance it out." Anyway, Naomi begins to cry. Satoshi, at this point completely forgetting about the existence of his sister, finds Naomi's phone and hears her crying. The two finally reunite as Naomi cries, hugs him, and the two talk. Naomi explains what happened with Seiko as she shows him her corpse. Naomi blames herself for this, but Satoshi says something must have possessed her, reassuring that Seiko isn't the type to just give up like that. Meanwhile, Yuka, the forgotten sister, continues to wander the halls as Sachiko unleashes her final form or some shit and screams at her, "I'm gonna rip out your bladder!" as she takes out a scissor. I mean, it sounds horrifying, but Yuka's entire story arc so far has just been holding in her pee while she runs away from horrific creatures and people, so maybe removing her bladder might actually do her some good, right? Anyways, Yuka falls over and freaks out, and we get a close-up shot of Yuka actually going to the bathroom on the spot. And the show makes sure to really let you know about it because I guess it's one of the most important plot points in the anime, you know? The most intense part of the holding the pee arc of Corpse Party is happening right now, and Yuka was unable to complete her mission. Or I guess she was able to complete it in this case? I don't really know. But anyways, this is drawn in a very particular angle that makes me feel real uncomfortable because Yuka is a middle schooler, and part of me wonders if I'm being gaslit by this show because maybe this isn't as weird as I think it is. I don't really know, but I don't really want to show it on YouTube and I have to blur it, so I'm gonna say, yeah, this is a very gross, weird angle. Okay, why do this is like, it's not even why do we need this? Anyways, Yuka runs away as Sachiko laughs her ass off. Right after this, we get a shot of Yuka holding out her underwear on full display and saying, "I'm gonna hide it here for now." And I'm just like, okay, now I don't feel as gaslit. Did we really need all that? Did we really need all that? I felt weird about the first shot of her releasing her bathroom business all over the ground and whatnot, but actually showing the aftermath of it in focus, it just makes me feel like it's another one of those weird fucking things that weirdos are into. It's just gross. We don't need it. It's disgusting. And I've seen people pee their pants in shows before, but not like in this much focus where the character is drawn in such an angle where you can see up. Oh, okay. Let's just move on to it, okay? This is all very necessary for the optimal horror experience, guys, okay? As Yuka gets up, a figure begins to loom towards her. It's Yuya from Byakudan High School, and he's alive, I guess, except now he's like one of those models they got in the science room, you know, where you can see the inside of the body for half of it. Anyways, Yuya from Byakudan High School then begins to choke Yuka, with Sachiko smiling as she watches. Meanwhile, the class pres searches the halls and finds glasses laying on the ground already dead. dead. Satoshi hears Yuka scream and finally remembers that he has a sister who is lost in this violent-ass school and begins to look for her. You see, Yuka is chained up to a table now as Yuya from Byakudan High School takes out a knife and does a lot of awful, horrendous things to her. This was admittedly the hardest scene to watch in the show for me. I mean, it's not really easy or pleasant to watch a young middle school girl get horrifically unalived while you hear her prolonged screaming and pain the entire time. You know, it's not something I really enjoy. They do not shy away from the violence. Let me just tell you that. As Yuka is going through her horrendous pain, somehow blonde guy manages to return to the school, I guess. No idea how. He knocks out Yuya from Byakudan High School with a baseball bat and tells Yuka to hang in there. However, someone else approaches them now. It's the teacher's ghost, and he's holding a scissor. Blonde guy is cornered by this ghost and struggles as the class press sees him and asks, "How are you here?" Blonde guy says, "Get Yuka!" The class press takes Yuka and runs to the next room. Blonde guy screams and we see him stumbling, bleeding profusely from half of his body. He yells at her to run, saying, "Who do you think I came back for, damn it?" Basically confirming that this man is a simp for the class prez. He holds the door back while he's about to confess his feelings to her, but then his abdomen is obliterated through the door. He tells her to continue running, but is finally unalived by the teacher ghost, who does pretty indescribable things to this blonde dude. I mean, he was about to confess his feelings, so I guess you can say that he literally spilled his guts out for her. Am I right? Get it? Because that's what happened in that moment, you know? Okay, anyways. This entire time, the class press just refuses to run, even though he's just saying, "Run, you should run." And she just stares at all of what just happened as Satoshi walks into the room. And the three just stare like a fucking deer caught in headlights as the ghost teacher kindly decides to not immediately run after them, but just lets them catch their breath. But of course, the teacher then begins to chase them down as the protagonists finally begin to run away. Outside, Satoshi hugs Yuka as he cries. She tells him to stay as she dies in his arms. Satoshi then screams in anguish. And as sad as this is, Satoshi spent so much damn time literally not looking for his sister, who was in immediate danger for most of the show, but fucking loafed around on his own for a while. I just think it's so stupid, okay? Like, if my family member was in that situation, I wouldn't have given a shit about anything else, dude. Fuck the murders, fuck the mystery. The first thing on my mind would be finding my family member and making sure that they're safe first. Maybe it's just me, I don't know, but this makes Satoshi seem like a dumbass. I can't. Episode 4, the final episode, begins with some footage of a random dude getting choked to death by a dark figure, surrounded by an evil aura. However, the figure then becomes a person again once the guy dies. The three living protagonists watch this footage as the class press says, "Kibiki-sensei," which is the name of the guy who just died in the footage. Apparently, this guy named Kibiki was Naho, the random girl in glasses' mentor or some shit like that. I don't really know. We then get a rather large pool of lore vomit. Everyone thought the teacher was the culprit of the incidents back then, but it was actually Sachiko. She controlled the teacher and unalived the children herself. These children then became vengeful spirits and created this cursed school. Ko Kibiki, a fantasy writer and the guy we saw in the footage earlier, came to this school in order to investigate it, but before they could solve anything, he lost his life. Naho, the random girl in glasses, saw him as her role model and followed him here. There is only one way to escape this school. There's another ritual that uses the scraps of the original charm. However, to perform it, certain conditions must be met. The children's spirits must be appeased and the criminal be made to repent. This will weaken the curse and allow re-entry into the real world. And they've already appeased the children, so they now have to make Sachiko repent. The class press asks if they all have their original Sachiko scraps, but Naomi just makes a noise and grasps at her pockets, clearly having lost her peace. But the ground begins to shake again. The three decide to split and look around the school again. Satoshi, as he walks around, turns over to see Naomi scrounging at a body, but when he asks her what's wrong, she's just like, nothing's wrong, everything's fine. Yeah, I mean, keeping secrets is probably the last thing y'all need to do in a situation like this if you want to survive, but whatever. The two walk into the nurse's office and hear a voice saying, "Come on, it's open." They enter to see a bloody room and a lady humming behind a curtain. They hear the voices of the lady and a bunch of kids and walk over to see a floating pencil writing into a journal saying, "Sachan is my pride. Everything she does to make me happy." The pencil then stops writing and the two investigate the diary. They read an entry saying, "It seems I've died," as the corpse of the nurse spawns next to them with a purple aura. The corpse begins to speak, saying, "I won't forgive. I won't forget. I'll unalive them in Minecraft. I can't forgive him." As the room begins to shake, Satoshi and Naomi run away. Sorry. I'm just like, imagine a fucking ghost just starts threatening you, but they're like, I'm gonna unalive you in Minecraft. That's like the least threatening ghost ever anyway. Meanwhile, the class pres reads through the notebook and reveals that apparently the information posted on Naho, the glasses girl's blog, was a lie designed to drag people into this school. She confronts Naho about the fake info on her blog, asking, you did it for Kibiki, the fantasy writer, right? You loved him, didn't you? Naho begins to laugh, saying, so what? Only morons would believe this kind of shit on the internet. If I do a good job, then he'll praise me and give me head pats. I'll do anything for him. Guys, the head pats are canon, by the way. I didn't add that line in there, okay? The class pres then realizes that because Naho had died there in the school, she doesn't remember everything. I guess that's how it works. But she ends up pulling out her phone and showing Naho a picture of the two's corpses, saying, you're the one that killed Kibiki, the fantasy writer, the man you loved. What you're doing doesn't make him happy. Hearing this, Naho goes absolutely insane and begins to excrete some kind of sludge from her body as she turns purple and then eventually just decomposes on the spot. What just happened? I don't know. This whole storyline with Naho and this fantasy writer and whatever is such a mess in the anime. I don't even know why they even tried. Anyways, behind where Naho used to be is a book on the ground. Meanwhile, Satoshi and Naomi read a journal. It talks about Sachiko's 7th birthday and how the headmaster came to see the person writing the journal. However, Satoshi finds that this page is stuck together and he's unable to read the next entry. Then he flips to another page which says, Sachan is my pride. Everything she does is to make me happy. Just to relieve my loneliness. She's sending so many children to me. She's unaliving them and sending me their souls. That doesn't make me happy. That can't make me happy. Come and talk to me, Sachiko. Stop it, Sachiko. It turns out that this very incredibly depressing diary is the diary of Sachiko's mother, who died when Sachiko was very young. Sachiko had sent all those children to the spirit realm so that her dead mother wouldn't be lonely. But then Sachiko eventually went insane and wound up in a school herself. Allegedly. I don't really know. I don't really understand. The class pres reads the book she found on the ground, which reveals that the lady who fell down the stairs from the initial story we heard all the way in the beginning of the show was none other than Yoshie Shinozaki, Sachiko's mother and the school's nurse. The class pres somehow then realizes that the nurse's death was not just a simple accident. As Satoshi and Naomi go outside, they hear a scream and a man falls from the sky. He asks for forgiveness and disappears. Then they see his body fall again, as if playing his death in a loop. It seems as though this is the headmaster of the elementary school, the man rumored to have lost his sanity and life after the school shut down. The two then enter the headmaster's office, a room with an insane amount of seals plastered everywhere. They open up the desk drawer to find a scissor and a pouch, but as Satoshi holds the scissor, he is forced to see a vision from the past. He sees the headmaster screaming, every night you appear in my dreams. My sins do weigh heavily on me, so why won't you leave me in peace? As we see that he is standing in front of a grave containing none other than Sachiko. The headmaster, already having gone insane, says, I can't have you telling other people about this, and removes Sachiko's tongue in Minecraft, even though Sachiko is clearly already not alive anymore. Satoshi comes back to reality as he explains what he just saw. The pouch contains Sachiko's tongue. He then realizes that the pages of the diary he couldn't read earlier have become unstuck. But before we can actually learn anything more substantial about the lore, the ground begins to shake again and we get interrupted. Wow! The class pres continues to wander and bumps into Miss Yui, their teacher, who is revealed to still be alive. Yeah, guys, remember this character? I almost forgot too. Don't worry, okay? Anyways, Miss Yui consoles the class pres, who had just learned about the pink girl's death. However, the ground also begins to shake heavily again, as suddenly Miss Yui has her head completely removed from her body. In Minecraft? She just died on the spot? Like, okay, so like, why even reveal that she's alive for like 2 seconds just to remove her from the story permanently? Satoshi and Naomi find a room with blood and a table with chains and stuff. They hide under the table as the ghost teacher walks in holding Seiko's corpse and drops it right near them. The teacher then adds Seiko's tongue to his very normal and healthy collection of tongues, guys. We all have collections, right? Jesus. For legal reasons, that's obviously a joke. And Naomi tries not to scream as some kind of weird purple thing comes out of her hand. After the teacher ghost leaves with Seiko's corpse, Naomi runs out and chases after them, calling for Seiko. Naomi gets separated from the others and she finds a TV, and a purple aura begins to surround her body once again. The class pres wakes up in a room with a pool of blood and a literal party of corpses. Woo! Satoshi runs into the room and learns about the deaths of the others as the ghost kid from earlier spawns in. She tells them Naomi is fighting her own demons. The corruption has started to affect her and she cannot return home yet. But if she overcomes her demons, she should be able to. The two decide to focus on Sachiko instead. Satoshi asks the girl what happens if they don't use their own scrap for the ritual, but I don't think we ever get an answer for it though. Satoshi and the class pres find Sachiko's buried corpse, and the teacher's corpse is also hanging right next to the grave. Sachiko's ghost angrily tells them to go away and attacks them as the two beg for her to listen. As they struggle, another spirit spawns behind them. And I guess this is also Sachiko, but not evil, so I'll refer to her as pure Sachiko and the one that's attacking them as evil Sachiko, just to make things a little easier. Meanwhile, Naomi sees a video on the TV revealing the truth. Naomi was the one that actually unalived Seiko. She set up the rope and she set up Seiko into the rope. I think the evil spirits took over her mind or something. It's not really explained in the anime, but understandably so. Naomi begins to lose her mind and the evil aura thingy begins to surround her more and more, and it seems like she's doomed. However, as she cries, her phone begins to ring and she says, I'm sure you can't forgive me, Seiko. As she opens her phone, only to see ghost Seiko, I guess, spamming the message, let's make up. Naomi begins to cry, saying, I love you, Seiko, and then just suddenly gets over this whole evil aura thingy and defeats her inner demons in like 5 seconds. Satoshi continues to get attacked by Sachiko as he begs for her to listen. Naomi then barges into this madness and also begins to beg Sachiko to stop. Satoshi then reveals, we know that you and your mother were the first victims. Huh? We then get a sudden flashback that reveals it all. We see Sachiko's mother's corpse on the ground with the headmaster staring at it, and the headmaster panics as he says that he didn't mean to push her down the stairs, but apparently he had grabbed her or something, so it seems like the connotation is that he was about to do something nasty to her either way. Unfortunately though, Sachiko walks right into this scene and the headmaster decides to silence Sachiko by choking her to death on the spot. Wow, what a wonderful guy, huh? The only thing I'm a little confused about that I still don't understand is they say Sachiko was found alive when the other kids were found, but Sachiko was already dead by that point. So what? She's just materialized as a person. Can an evil spirit do that? It just manifests as a regular kid in the world and you can be seen like a regular kid, but you're actually dead. It just makes no sense to me. But anyway, back to the present. Evil Sachiko lets go of Satoshi as the three say to her, it must have hurt. You wanted everyone to know the truth, but no one could hear you. So that's why you did all of this. Satoshi says, let's end this, as he takes the scissor from her hands. Pure Sachiko approaches him and he hands her the pouch with her tongue. Satoshi asks Naomi to bring over a stuffed cat on the grave and hands it to Pure Sachiko, saying it's a present from her mother. Sachiko cries, saying she's sorry that she hurt everyone. She then begins to glow and the two Sachiko spirits both combine into one and disappear, finally being able to move on. The ground begins to shake heavily as the ghost kid from earlier says they need to hurry up. They dash out of the school and do the undoing ritual, but Satoshi reveals that he saw Naomi pick up a random person's paper, so there's really no telling what's gonna happen because it's not the same as the original. He then says, take my piece. Satoshi says he has Yuka's paper with him, so he's fine, and lets Naomi use his piece. They perform the undoing ritual, stick the scraps together, and begins to glow. The three then disappear. Cut to the original classroom. It seems like they made it back together until it's revealed that Naomi and the class pres are both holding one of Satoshi's arms, but the rest of him was unable to make it back, which is pretty depressing, TBH. Then we get a post-credit scene where a lady is calling about how her daughter won't come out of a room, always just talking about this imaginary friend of hers. When the lady explains that this friend never existed, the girl gets very angry to the point where it scares the mother. This girl is revealed to be Naomi, who is shown to have basically lost her sanity at this point, and sadly, everyone who died seems to be erased from the existence of reality, and this is where Corpse Party, the anime at least, comes to a close. Man, what an absolute disappointment, dude. Honestly, I really like some aspects of Corpse Party. As someone who enjoys horror once in a while, and like some of the morbid stuff, I feel like I appreciated the story with the rumored cursed school, the horrific incident behind it, and the truth of what really happened in those incidents. I also think this show is a case where the gore and the horrific nonsensical violence adds to the show rather than makes it harder to watch. I have complained about needless violence in the past with other shows, but I think that's usually because those shows already sucked major ass without this violence. Like Pupa, for example. I don't know if you guys have seen me talk about it, but I talk about it in one of my older videos. Like that show's story is so ass that the needless violence in it made it even harder to watch, whereas Corpse Party has an interesting enough story to where the violence and all this horrific stuff actually added to that overall story and experience for me. Unfortunately though, that's where the good parts of this anime ends for me. They did try to tell a story, but but the keyword is try. The anime was way too short for how many different plot lines the original story of Corpse Party had. The fan service was legitimately so unnecessary that it was accidentally hilarious to me. I think the characters were interesting, but that's only because I watched PewDiePie play this game when I was like 13, 14. So I know them from the game, but the characters all kind of lose their charm in the anime because of how short the runtime is, and none of them really end up mattering or doing anything ever. It's hard to say whether or not I like this anime at all. I think there are aspects to enjoy, and it's definitely way better than other shows that I've reviewed on my channel, which isn't that high of a bar though, so it's nothing impressive, but still. The show is just way too rushed, and trying to connect the dots on the lore and backstory can get extremely confusing at some moments too. The pacing was just insanely bad. Okay, it was shit. All this stuff just feels like it's just snap, 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 let's move the story forward, rather than actually trying to tell that interesting story. Overall, I think that Corpse Party has an interesting premise, and as a horror enjoyer, it does tickle a lot of my fancies when it comes to morbid stuff like this. But this anime, unfortunately, brutalized its own story more than Sachiko did to the other kids back in the day. I'm gonna give this anime a 3 out of 10. Anyways though, that's it for me today. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure to leave a like, and don't forget to subscribe for more anime content. Once again, a huge shout out to my channel members. This would not be possible without you guys. And that's it. So I will see you in the next video that I decide to make. Peace out.